They say money changes people, but sometimes it's the absence of money that changes them even more. This is a story no one saw coming, a story that began with heartbreak, betrayal, and a family broken into pieces, and ended with a $500 million fortune that none of them ever expected. A story of loss, a story of second chances, a story of what happens when the truth that was buried for decades finally surfaces. And tonight, for the next 90 minutes, you will walk through those hidden years, the silence, the pain, the rebuilding, and the empire that rose from the ashes of a shattered heart. This is From Heartbreak to Empire, the $500 million fortune they never knew. START 2:36 o'clock. It begins with a woman named Alina, soft-spoken, warm-hearted, a dreamer. And it begins on the night she lost everything: her marriage, her home, and the family she thought she would grow old with. What she didn't know was that this heartbreak would become the beginning of something far greater than she had ever imagined, not just for her, but for the children she left behind. Children who would one day learn that the woman they thought had abandoned them had actually built an empire in silence, all in the hope of earning her way back to them. Full, continuous flow narration designed for long retention, smooth transitions, emotional arcs, and slow story expansion. The night everything Giardilena stood in the doorway, her suitcase half-zipped, her hands trembling. It wasn't the fight that broke her. It wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't even the cold silence that had filled the house for years. It was the look in her children's eyes, a look she could never forget, a look that said, "Why are you leaving us?" But sometimes, walking away is the only way to survive. And she walked, with nothing but a few clothes, a few photographs, and a heart already breaking into pieces. The years of silence, if for the first time in her life, Alina was alone. She cleaned houses. She folded clothes in She slept in a room not much bigger than a closet. Day after day, month after month, year after year, she never spoke of her children, never mentioned her past, never allowed anyone to get close. But every night, she wrote in a small notebook plans, ideas, dreams. It was the only place she allowed herself to imagine a future where she wasn't just surviving, but building. The first step of the EMPR. It began with a bakery, a tiny corner shop with peeling paint, a cracked counter, and a rent she could barely afford. She called it Second Chance Bakery, and she meant every word of it. She woke up at 3 a.m., mixed flour with her bare hands, sold pastries door to door until her feet ached and her voice was gone. But people loved the taste. A recipe from her grandmother, a flavor from her childhood, and slowly, very slowly, people started coming. First 5 customers, then 10, then 50. Then she needed help. The woman who never stopped, Laharani and Lena, enrolled in night classes, business, accounting, marketing, finance. She studied while kneading dough. She read books while waiting for bread to rise. She watched business lectures on an old second-hand phone while wiping down tables after closing. She learned. She adapted. She grew. The bakery became 2, then 5, then 10. But it didn't stop there. The moment that changed, EVRYTHING one morning. While delivering pastries to a local cafe, a man in a suit walked in, a food distributor from a major chain. He tried one bite, just 1. And that was all it took. Orders began pouring in, not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands. Elena's tiny bakery couldn't handle it, so she opened a factory, then a second, then a third. Her brand expanded to supermarkets, then airports, then international stores, but she never put her name on any of it. She didn't want fame. She didn't want attention. She only wanted one thing: to build enough, to leave behind enough, so that one day, if her children ever came looking for answers, they would find something worthy of forgiveness. The children grow up while Elena built her hidden empire. Her children grew without her. Daniel, the eldest, became quiet, guarded. Sophia, the middle child, found comfort in books. Liam, the youngest, never stopped asking the question, why did she leave? They grew up believing the worst, and how could they not? No letters, no calls, no birthday wishes. They thought she chose to forget them, but they didn't know the truth. Elena wrote them letters every year. She kept them in a wooden box. Hundreds of letters. Not one was ever sent, because she believed she had no right to step back into their lives until she had something to offer. Something that proved she never stopped loving them. The empire worth $500 million by the time Elena reached her 60s. Her company was worth over $500 million. She owned factories, warehouses, patents, and retail chains. She quietly helped thousands of families. She paid for scholarships, medical bills, and community projects. And yet, she still lived in the same small apartment, still used the same worn-out handbag, still ate alone at the same little table by the window, because the one thing she wanted most was the one thing she believed she would never have again: her family. The letter that started it. Elena passed away peacefully in her sleep. She left behind no instructions, except for one envelope, addressed to "My children, if you ever choose to hear my story." Inside was not money, not apologies, not explanations, but a single key. A key to the office of a lawyer who had been holding a secret for decades. And that's where the real story begins, where the children walk into a room and learn the truth that breaks them before it heals them. The truth about their mother, her sacrifices, her suffering, her empire, her love, and the $500 million fortune she had built for them piece by piece, day by day, tear by tear. Asterisk, the key was old, cold, heavy in Daniel's hand. It had been more than 30 years since any of them had spoken her name aloud. But now, standing in the quiet lobby of a law office that smelled of polished wood and old paper, all three of them felt something they didn't expect. Not anger, not resentment, fear, fear of answers, fear of answers, fear of truths. They weren't sure they were ready to hear. The receptionist led them into a room where the walls were lined with books. A single envelope sat on the table, their mother's handwriting on the front. Elegant, gentle, familiar. Sophia reached for it first. Her fingers brushed the paper as if touching a ghost. Inside was a simple letter, not long, not poetic, not dramatic, just one sentence. "Please listen with the same heart I carried for you." And then, something none of them expected, a flash drive. The lawyer pressed play. A video appeared on the screen. Not professional, not scripted, just their mother, sitting in a small room, her hair pulled back, her eyes tired but warm. She looked older than any of them remembered. But her voice was the same. "Hello, my loves." Daniel froze. Sophia covered her mouth. Liam took a step closer, as if he could step into the screen. I don't know where you are now, she continued softly, or if you will ever see this, but I need you to understand why I left. Why I stayed away. Why I built what I built. Her hands shook as she clasped them together. I left because I thought staying would destroy you. The night that was never spoken abused for the first time. The children heard the truth. The fight that night wasn't the first. It was the last. Their father had changed, darkened, turned into someone she no longer recognized. Control, rage, isolation, things. The children had been too young to understand. I tried to protect you, she whispered, but I had nothing. No money, no power, no way to take you with me. And I believed, wrongly, that if I left, he would at least provide you stability. Liam's eyes filled with tears. Sophia turned away. Daniel clenched his jaw, trying to stay strong, as the pieces of a childhood they never understood finally began falling into place. The silent LOV on the screen. Alina held up a small wooden box. Inside were letters, dozens, hundreds, one for every birthday, every milestone, every moment she wished she could have been with them. I wrote to you every year. I watched from a distance. I went to your graduations and stood in the back where no one would notice. I saw your successes. I cried during your achievements. I prayed during your failures. I never abandoned you. Her voice broke. I only stepped aside, so you wouldn't inherit my pain. The Empire's Shebieltova lawyer paused the video and turned to them. What he said next changed everything. Your mother didn't just leave you an apology, he said. She left you an entire world. He handed them a document thick, heavy, bound in leather. The title, Second Chance, Group Holdings. Daniel flipped through the pages. Confused. Factories, patents, stores, investments, international subsidiaries, charities she secretly funded, scholarships she created. The numbers didn't make sense at first. Then they did. $500 million. Sophia's breath caught. Liam sat down, overwhelmed. Daniel whispered, "This can't be real," but it was. Every penny, every asset, every piece of the empire was in their name. The clause that changed, EVRYTHING, but then the lawyer explained the part that made the room go silent. Their mother had set one condition, a single request written in her will, a request that would test everything they thought they knew before they could inherit anything, before they could claim even a single dollar. They had to do one thing: spend 1 month together running the life I built, so you can understand the heart behind it. 1 month, working side by side, living under the same roof, running the company she created. Only then would the inheritance be activated. The lawyer looked at them carefully. If you walk away, the entire empire goes to charity. If you accept, you begin tomorrow. Daniel looked at his siblings. The weight of their mother's life, and the life she wanted for them, hovered in the air. Sophia wiped her tears. Liam took a trembling breath, and for the first time in decades, for the first time since the night she walked away, all 3 siblings found themselves united by a truth they were still struggling to understand. Their mother never left them. She built a kingdom for them, piece by piece, day by day, tier by tier. And now, they stood at the doorway of her empire, holding the keys she left behind. The next morning came with a weight none of them were prepared for. Daniel, the responsible one. Sophia, the soft-spoken middle child. Liam, the youngest with the loudest questions. 3 people who had grown apart, now being asked to live and work together in the world. Their mother built in silence, a world they never knew existed. The company headquarters towered above the city, glass walls shining in the morning light. The name Second Chance Group engraved in steel, a name they had walked past countless times without ever knowing the story behind it. As they entered the lobby, people greeted them with warm smiles, as if welcoming royalty returning home. But none of the siblings felt like they belonged. Daniel's jaw was tight. Sophia felt small among the polished marble floors. Liam kept his hands in his pockets, trying to act as though he wasn't overwhelmed. The lawyer joined them with a quiet nod. The board is waiting. Inside the conference room sat 12 people, leaders, advisors, directors, all handpicked by Alina herself. Not one of them spoke at first. They simply looked at the 3 siblings with a mixture of curiosity and something else, respect, the kind earned by a woman who had built an empire with nothing but grit and broken memories. The chairwoman, a woman in her late 60s with silver hair, finally spoke. "Your mother never stopped talking about you." The siblings froze. "She showed us your pictures. She celebrated your achievements. She defended your choices. Even though she watched from a distance, her heart was always with you." Sophia's eyes filled again. Liam looked down. Daniel swallowed hard. "We are not here to judge your past." The chairwoman continued. "We are here to help you understand your mother, through the world she created." Then she added quietly, "and through the people she saved." The next hours unfolded like chapters of a book they had never read but somehow belonged in. They met a woman in her 40s who had been homeless with 2 children until Alina anonymously paid for housing and offered her a job. Met a young man who had been denied college due to finances, until Alina created a scholarship in his name. They met a single father who said she bought him a wheelchair after an accident, left him paralyzed again and again. Story after story. The siblings listened in stunned silence as they discovered their mother's true legacy. She had built wealth, yes, but her wealth had built lives. Lives of people who knew her as a quiet woman who cared too deeply and asked for nothing in return. Late that afternoon, the siblings sat in their mother's old office. Her desk was still the same, neat, orderly, simple. On the wall hung a framed newspaper article about her first bakery. Sophia ran her fingers along the frame. She kept everything so simple. She whispered. Daniel opened a drawer and found a stack of notebooks. Handwritten business strategies, ideas, dreams, and at the bottom, a small envelope with their names on it. He opened it slowly. Inside was a list, not instructions, not a schedule, not rules for the company, just 5 words: be kind, be brave, be together. Daniel closed his eyes. Liam sat heavily in a chair. Sophia broke down first. Her voice trembled. She wanted us to find each other again. That night, for the first time in years, they sat together around a table in their mother's house. A house she had never lived in because she believed she didn't deserve comfort until her children did. They cooked a simple meal. Liam accidentally burned the chicken. Sophia fixed it. Daniel laughed, a sound they hadn't heard from him in years. The silence between them was no longer cold. It was soft, healing, unforced, like they were rediscovering who they used to be before the world broke them. And somewhere in the quiet, Sophia said softly, "I think she wanted this more than the money." Daniel nodded. Liam whispered, "I think she wanted us to forgive her." Later that night, as they explored her personal files, they found something that made the room go still. A letter to the lawyer, written in Elena's handwriting. It said, "When they come, if they come, tell them I never expected forgiveness, only understanding." A pause, a breath, a silence heavy with meaning. "And tell them they were my greatest success." Daniel stared at the words, unable to speak. Sophia pressed her hand to her mouth. Liam looked away, blinking hard for the first time. They weren't angry children wondering why their mother left. They were adults finally seeing the world through her eyes. The month began. So began the 30 days that would reshape their lives. Days of learning. Days of uncovering truths. Days of piecing together the life she fought to build from nothing but heartbreak. They didn't know it yet, but the empire she left them was not the last secret she had. There was more, much more, secrets hidden in contracts, in old photographs, in the people she trusted, and in the past she never spoke about, secrets that would reveal the real reason she built a fortune in silence, and the real danger she had been protecting them from all along. The first week inside the empire felt like peeling back layers of a story they never knew they were part of. But with every layer they uncovered, a new question began to form in the back of their minds. How did she build all of this alone? Because the numbers didn't lie. The company's early years showed a rapid rise. Too rapid, too perfect. There had to be more, and there was. The mysterious FAL leet began on a rainy afternoon as Daniel reviewed old contracts. A file fell out from between two binders. A plain manila folder labeled only a G. Inside were documents, contracts, bank transfers, old letters, all written to or from the same person, Alexander Grant. Liam frowned. "Who is that?" Sophia shook her head. "I've never heard the name." Daniel's eyes narrowed, because buried inside the papers was something that stopped him cold. A photograph of their mother, standing next to a man with sharp eyes, a confident smile, and a hand resting on her shoulder in a way that suggested trust. "And something more," Liam whispered. "Did Mum have someone?" Sophia looked stunned. Daniel didn't answer, because he had found something even more alarming. Letter handwritten in Alexander's handwriting, and it read, "Elena, you don't owe me anything, but you need to be careful. He will find out one day, and when he does, he will come for everything." The three siblings stared at the words, a chill running down their spines. He. Who was he? Their father? Someone else? Someone dangerous? The man they never knew, Aboat. The next morning, they met with the lawyer again. He took one look at the folder and his expression changed. A heaviness, a fear, a hesitation they hadn't seen before. Daniel pressed him. "You knew about this, didn't you?" The lawyer sighed deeply. "Yes, your mother instructed me never to mention him unless you found the file yourself." "Why?" Sophia whispered. The lawyer folded his hands. "Because Alexander Grant was the man who saved her life." Liam blinked. "What do you mean, saved?" The lawyer took a breath, and then everything changed. The night their mother was almost lost 8 happened a few years after she left home. Working late nights, walking alone, barely making ends meet. One night, a man followed her home. Someone from her old life. Someone tied to her past. Someone who wanted the one thing she still had left: fear. But before anything could happen, a stranger intervened. A man named Alexander Grant. A businessman. A philanthropist. A man who saw something in her that she didn't see in herself yet. He helped her, protected her, guided her. He invested the first money she ever used to open the bakery. A small loan. No interest. No pressure, just faith. The siblings listened in stunned silence as the lawyer continued. But your mother refused to accept anything more from him. She insisted on earning every step herself. And she did. Sophia's voice trembled. Were they together? The lawyer shook his head. No, not the way you're thinking. He loved her, but she never allowed herself to love anyone again. Liam swallowed hard. Why not? The lawyer's voice softened. Because she believed she had already given all her love to the three of you. The Ironian Daniel reread the letter. The warning, the threat, the mysterious he. Who was she afraid of? He asked. And for the first time, the lawyer hesitated. Not because he didn't know, but because he wasn't sure they were ready to hear the truth. Finally, he spoke. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a criminal. It wasn't a competitor. The room went still. It was your father. Sophia gasped. Liam froze. Daniel closed his eyes, his breaths shaking. He became obsessed after she left. The lawyer continued. He spent years searching for her, claiming she stole something from him. In his mind, her success was his loss. The siblings were silent when he learned she built a company. He threatened to take it, to claim it, to destroy everything she created. Sophia whispered, so she hid us. To protect the company. The lawyer shook his head. No, she hid the company. To protect you. They sat in silence as the reality settled over them. Their mother didn't just leave because she was broken. She left because she was hunted. She didn't stay away because she didn't love them. She stayed away because her presence could have brought danger to their doorstep. Every lonely night, every missed birthday, every silent year was not abandonment. Asterisk. It was protection. Sophia covered her face, sobs shaking her shoulders. Liam turned away, tears streaming silently. Daniel stood still, his voice barely a whisper. She carried all of this alone. The lawyer nodded. For your safety. As they prepared to leave, Daniel noticed one last item in the folder, a sealed envelope with a date on it. A date just 1 month before she died. He opened it. Slowly, inside was a message, written in her delicate script. If you are reading this, it means the truth has found you. The danger is gone. You are safe now, and I can finally rest. A soft breath escaped Daniel's lips. Sophia whispered through tears. She waited until it was safe to bring us back to her. Liam clutched the letter to his chest. The month they were living through was no longer about money, no longer about inheritance, no longer about an empire. It was about understanding the strength of a woman who rebuilt her life from the ashes of fear and turned it into a legacy of courage, a legacy meant for them. Asterisk the second week inside. Their mother's empire felt different. The first week was shock. Truths unfolding like cracks in a wall they spent decades building around themselves. But the second week felt like stepping into her heartbeat. Every morning they arrived at headquarters. Every evening they left with more questions, more answers, and more pieces of their mother fitting back into their lives. They weren't just inheriting a business. They were inheriting a woman's life, and they were finally ready to understand her, one by one. People who had known Alina for years began coming forward with their own stories. A janitor who said she bought him new shoes when his soles were worn thin. A delivery driver who revealed she paid his wife's hospital bills to keep their family from falling apart. A single mother who whispered that Alina secretly visited her sick child when doctors lost hope. But one story stood out. Young woman approached Sophia during a factory tours. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she held out a small bracelet. "This belonged to your mother," she said softly. "She gave it to me the day I tried to quit. I was going through something dark. And she told me this bracelet was her reminder that nothing is permanent. Not pain, not fear, not failure." She said it brought her strength when she felt alone. Sophia held the bracelet in trembling fingers. It was simple, worn, barely worth any money. But to her, it was priceless, the young woman continued. She never wanted credit. She just wanted to help quietly. She said real love doesn't need applause. Sophia broke down because that was their mother, loving loudly in silence for days. Liam had been the one keeping it together, laughing things off, making jokes, acting unaffected. But late one evening, as they reviewed old photos in their mother's office, something inside him cracked. He found a picture of himself at 5 years old, a lost tooth grin, a sticky handprint on a birthday cake, and behind him, barely visible, a blurry figure at the back of the room, a woman with Elena's eyes. Liam stared at the photo as realization washed over him. She was there. He whispered. Daniel looked closer. "Mom, that's her." Sophia pressed a hand to her chest. Liam's voice broke. "She came to my birthday. I thought she forgot. I thought she didn't care." He sank into a chair, head in his hands. She was right there. His shoulders shook. All the years of anger, all the nights spent wondering, all the stories he told himself about being the child she didn't want. They collapsed at once. Daniel kneeled beside him. Sophia hugged him from behind, and for the first time in decades, the three siblings cried together for the woman who raised them from afar. On the 15th day, Daniel found something in her apartment that she never intended for anyone else to see. A worn notebook. On the cover, "My life. If I had stayed." Inside were pages and pages of dreams she wrote for the life she never got to live. A drawing of a house with 3 bedrooms, one for each of them. A garden she wanted to plant with all their favorite flowers. A schedule of family picnics, future birthday cakes, holidays she wished she could have spent with them, notes about the kind of mother she wanted to be. If the world had been kinder to her, Sophia read a line out loud, voice trembling. "I hope one day they understand that I left because I loved them too much to let them be collateral damage." Daniel closed his eyes. Liam covered his face. All of them felt the same thing, a quiet guilt for blaming. A woman who spent her entire life blaming herself. On the 20th day, they visited her original bakery, the tiny corner shop where everything began. It was still running, still busy, still warm with the smell of fresh bread. The owner, a woman in her 70s, gasped when she saw them. "You're Elena's children." She hugged them without hesitation. "She used to talk to me about you every morning. She told me all your favorite foods, told me stories from when you were little. She kept a picture of the three of you behind the counter for years." Then she pulled out a small tin box from under the register. "She told me to give this to you if you ever came." Inside were 3 cookies, old, crumbling, fragile, wrapped separately in handwritten notes. "For Daniel, you were always the strong one. I hope life was gentle with you. For Sophia, my gentle heart. I hope your kindness never cost you too much too. For Liam, my brave boy, I hope you learned to love yourself the way I loved you." And beneath the cookies, a final note. "I baked these the night I realized I may never see you again, but I packed them anyway, just in case hope brings you back." Sophia sobbed openly. Liam wiped his eyes. Daniel held the note against his chest. Hope had brought them back years after the cookies had crumbled, but the love inside them was still whole. As the month progressed, something changed among the siblings. They began cooking meals together, sorting files together, making decisions together, laughing again, arguing again, but in the way families do when they are trying to stitch themselves back together. Every day, their mother felt closer, more real, more understood. They no longer saw her as the woman who left. They saw her as the woman who sacrificed her entire life so they could grow safely. And they began to feel something they hadn't felt in a long time. Not grief, not confusion, not bitterness, but pride. Pride in who she was. Pride in what she built. Pride in the legacy they were now responsible for. But just as things began to heal, just as the siblings found rhythm, just as their mother's world started to make sense, something happened that none of them expected. Something buried deep in her past. Something left unfinished. Something dangerous. A secret that their mother took to her grave. A secret that someone else did not want revealed. And when the siblings discovered it, the empire she built would be threatened in a way she never saw coming. But while the brothers celebrated their small win, life was getting ready to deliver its biggest twist yet. Because on the other side of the country, an old woman sat awake at 3 a.m., holding a photograph she had not touched in 45 years. A photograph of 2 little boys, smiling at her with faces full of trust. Her hands shook as she whispered into the empty room, "My sons, where are you now?" She had spent half a lifetime trying to bury the truth. Half a lifetime carrying guilt so heavy, it bent her shoulders and stole her sleep. But guilt has a habit of resurfacing when you least expect it. For the first time in decades, she couldn't run from it anymore. She reached for a locked wooden box hidden under her bed. Inside was a faded letter, a birth certificate, and a newspaper clipping titled. She closed her eyes. "Your father," she whispered, "deserved better. And so did you." This was the night she decided she could no longer die with the truth. Someone needed to hear it. Someone needed to know what happened, the collapse before the breakthrough. The brothers had no idea that fate was already moving toward them. They were fighting a battle no one saw, running out of money, out of time, out of options. The landlord threatened eviction. They were eating 1 meal a day, and for almost a week straight, they didn't speak to each other. Not because they were angry, but because silence was easier than admitting, "We might lose everything." Their mother watched quietly from the kitchen doorway, hands clasped, heart breaking as she saw the desperation in her son's eyes. They had worked so hard, and still felt like they were running in circles. But right when everything seemed hopeless, a moment of pure luck, or destiny, or divine timing appeared. Not a $1 million deal, not an investor, not a miracle check. Something much smaller, yet far more powerful, a message. For words. From a stranger, "I've seen your work." The words appeared in their inbox around midnight. No name, no greeting, just the line, "I've seen your work. We need to talk." The brothers stared at the message. It looked suspicious, possibly fake, but something about it felt different. There was a sense of calm confidence in the words, not flashy, not desperate, not sales-sci, just certain, they replied. 10 minutes later, the stranger responded with a video link. When they clicked it, they froze. It was footage from a global innovation conference, a place they could never afford to attend. The speaker, a respected CEO worth hundreds of millions, was showing their prototype on a giant screen. Their work, their idea, their design, the world was seeing it before they could even launch it. And then the CEO said something that made both brothers sit straight up. "If anyone knows who created this, I want to meet them." The next morning, their phone buzzed with an unknown number. The brothers stared at it like it was a bomb. Should they answer? What if it was a scam? What if it was a mistake? What if it was real? On the fourth ring, the younger brother picked up. The voice on the other end was calm, deep, professional. "I think we're looking for each other," the man said. "Your work is brilliant. Let's talk business." The room went silent. Their mother looked up from the table, eyes wide, and that was the moment, the exact second, they felt something shift inside their chest. Not hope, not luck, not alignment, a feeling that everything they had survived, the poverty, the heartbreak, the abandonment, the empty bank accounts, was finally pointing toward something bigger than themselves, something they were born for, but they didn't know yet. This wasn't the opportunity that would make them successful. This was the opportunity that would introduce them to the person who would lead them to the truth about their father, their past, and the $500 million empire waiting in silence. And miles away, the old woman whispered, "They're coming for the truth, and I deserve whatever comes next." Her hands trembled, her breath shook, but her heart felt something it hadn't felt in years. Relief, because the truth she buried was finally waking up. The brothers arrived at the downtown tower with clothes they ironed 3 times. Not because they cared about perfection, but because this was the first time in their lives they felt seen. The elevator doors opened to a panoramic view of the entire city. Glass walls, polished marble floors. A receptionist who greeted them by name, as if she had been waiting only for them. Their hands were shaking. Not from fear, from disbelief. They sat in a long glass conference room until the CEO walked in. The same man from the global conference. Stage, he extended his hand. "You two don't know how long I've been looking for you." That one sentence was the spark that cut through every dark moment they had ever lived. The younger brother swallowed hard. The older one couldn't breathe. The CEO took their prototype out of his briefcase. "This is the future, and I don't say that lightly." The brothers looked at each other. For the first time in months, they smiled. "Who taught you this?" The CEO spent the next hour asking questions. Not about money. Not about business. About them. Where did you learn to build like this? Who mentored you? Where did this design philosophy come from? And every time, the brothers answered the same: we don't know. We just figured everything out ourselves. But that wasn't the truth. Not fully, because somewhere deep inside, they always felt like someone had planted something in them. A talent, an instinct, a spark they never understood. And the CEO noticed it. He leaned back in his chair and said something that made the room fall silent. Your work reminds me of someone I used to know. Someone brilliant. Someone who changed my life. The brothers leaned forward. Who? They asked. He hesitated, as if saying the name would open a door he had kept closed for years. Then he spoke. Elias Werner. The brothers froze. They had never heard the name before, but for some reason, their hearts reacted, like a memory trying to push itself to the surface. The CEO studied their faces. Does that mean something to you? They didn't know how to answer. Not yet. Meanwhile, the past was coming alive across the city. The old woman, their biological mother, sat in a church pew, weeping quietly. She clutched the old wooden box, like it contained the last piece of her soul. A priest sat beside her. Are you ready to tell them? He asked gently. Her voice cracked. I don't know if they'll hate me, or forgive me for telling the truth. The priest asked. No, she whispered, for hiding it. Her breath trembled as she opened the box again. Birth records, photos, legal papers, the will, and the final envelope, marked with a name that burned her heart. She pulled out a faded letter and stared at the handwriting. Handwriting she loved once. Handwriting that once held her world together. Handwriting she destroyed because of one decision she never should have made. Her tears wet the paper. Your sons are alive, Elias, she whispered. They survived. Despite me, and for the first time in decades, she felt something inside her shift. A quiet voice telling her, it's time. It's finally time, back in the tower. The conversation was changing. The CEO leaned closer. The man I mentioned, Dilius, was a genius. A visionary. He built things no one else understood. He paused, and then he vanished. The younger brother felt a chill. Vanished. How? Why? The CEO sighed. No one knows. His fortune, his patents, everything disappeared with him. The brothers exchanged a long, uneasy look. The CEO continued. But your design, your thinking, your instincts, they're exactly like his. Silence filled the room. The older brother finally asked the question sitting in both their minds. Are you saying we might be related to him? The CEO shook his head. I'm not saying it. I'm saying it's possible. He slid a folder across the table. Take this. Look into it. Follow the trail. You might find more than you expect. That night, the brothers sat on their small apartment floor, the same floor where they once cried, fought, dreamed, gave up, stood up again, and opened the CEO's folder. Inside were a missing person report, old newspaper clippings, a company name tied to forgotten innovations, and finally, a passport photo, a man with familiar eyes, eyes that looked like theirs. Both brothers stopped breathing. The younger one whispered, "This can't be a coincidence." The older one whispered, "This looks like us." Their mother stepped into the room, holding a tray of tea, smiling warmly until she saw what was on the floor. Her hands shook. The tray rattled. Her face went colorless. Where did you get that? The brothers looked up, and for the first time in their lives, they saw fear in her eyes. Not normal fear. Fear of truth. Fear of confrontation. Fear of secrets cracking open. The older brother stood slowly. Mum, who is this man? She didn't answer. Her hands covered her mouth. Her knees weakened. Her voice broke into a whisper. I prayed this day would never come. And that was the moment. The exact second they realized everything they knew about their childhood, about their father, about their identity, was a lie hiding something enormous, a lie worth $500 million. If you want the story to continue, just say, asterisk. The apartment felt colder than usual. The brothers stood frozen, their mother trembling in front of them, the passport photo on the floor like a dropped bomb still echoing through the air. The younger brother spoke first, soft. Careful, Mum. Please, just tell us who he is. She looked at them with eyes full of love and decades of buried pain. Then she whispered, he was your father. The words hit the room like a collision. The older brother stepped back. The younger one's breath caught in his throat. Their father, the man they were told died long ago. The man they believed was nothing more than a memory without a face. But now he had a name, a story, a mystery, a missing empire, and suddenly a million unasked questions crashed into their minds. The younger brother's voice cracked. You told us he died in an accident. The mother closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. I lied. The older brother's voice rose hurt, betrayed. Why would you do that? She shook her head, voice trembling, because the truth was too dangerous. For you, for me, for all of us. He didn't leave us. I took you away. Her confession spilled out like a dam breaking. He was brilliant, but being brilliant made him enemies. Powerful enemies. People who wanted his ideas or wanted him gone. She wiped her eyes. When I found out what they planned to do, I ran. I took you with me. I hid you so well that even he couldn't find you. The younger brother stared in shock. You mean he didn't abandon us? The mother shook her head. No, he searched for you. For years, until the day he disappeared. Her voice cracked, and I never forgave myself. Silence, thick, heavy, almost suffocating. The older brother leaned forward, voice shaking. Do you think he's still alive? She hesitated, not because she didn't know, but because she didn't want to shatter them. Then she whispered, I don't know. But if he isn't, someone else does. She reached into the wooden box, the same one she had kept hidden for decades, and pulled out a sealed envelope with their names on it. Their hands shook as they took it. He left this in case anything happened, she whispered. I was afraid to give it to you, afraid of what it would mean, afraid of what you'd find. Inside the envelope was the key. The brothers tore the envelope open carefully. Inside were a hand-drawn map, coordinates, a storage unit number, and finally, a note written in their father's handwriting. If you are reading this, then the truth has finally reached you. Follow the trail. Everything I built belongs to you. The younger brother's eyes widened. Everything he built. Does that mean the empire? Their mother nodded slowly. Painfully, your father was worth far more than you think. How much? The older brother asked. She swallowed hard. $500 million. The room spun. 500 million. A future they never imagined. A legacy they never knew. A truth that had been hiding behind lies and fear. The mother collapsed onto a chair, sobbing. I thought I was protecting you, but I was only delaying your destiny. The brothers knelt beside her, and in that moment anger dissolved. Confusion softened. Pain loosened its grip, because now they understood. She didn't hide the truth out of selfishness. She hid it out of love, out of fear, out of desperation. But the truth had finally found them, and there was no turning back. The journey was no longer about money that night. The brothers sat in the dark living room, the map between them, the envelope open like a gateway. Neither spoke, because both felt the same thing, strange pull. A calling, asterisk. As if their father's voice was whispering in the silence. It's time. The younger brother finally broke the silence. We have to go. The older one nodded. Tomorrow morning, their mother tried to speak, tried to stop them, but the words wouldn't come, because deep inside, she knew this wasn't a search for wealth. This wasn't a hunt for inheritance. This was a journey toward identity, toward truth, toward becoming the men they were meant to be. And somewhere out there, hidden in the shadows of the past, awaited the answers to every question they never dared to ask: where their father was, who took him, why he vanished, and what secrets he died protecting. Asterisk. The sun had barely risen when the brothers stood outside the old storage facility, the one marked on their father's map. It wasn't glamorous, not modern, not high-dash security, just a worn-out warehouse on the edge of the industrial district. Rusted doors, cracked pavement, a faded sign that buzzed with broken lights. But something about it felt alive, like it held memories still breathing behind metal walls. The older brother checked the number. Again, Unit 37B. The younger one swallowed hard. Are we ready? No, but they had answered a calling much older than fear. They walked inside. A door that felt like a pulse. Their footsteps echoed across the cold concrete floor. Unit 37B looked like every other unit, grey, lifeless, silent. But the moment the younger brother touched the lock, he felt something, not supernatural, not mystical, familiar. Familiar like a fingerprint of the past. They used the key tucked into the envelope. The lock clicked open. The rolling door creaked upward, and what they saw inside froze them in place. Their father's mind, preserved in dust blueprints, covered the walls. Intricate, detailed, brilliant. Dozens of inventions. Ideas decades ahead of their time. Tables covered with tools, prototypes, machines, journals, sketches. It looked like someone had been working until the very moment they vanished, as if the space had been abandoned mid-breath. The older brother stepped inside first. This is genius. The younger one traced, his fingers over a half-built device. It's like he never stopped working. Then they saw a framed photo pinned to the wall, their father holding two. Toddlers dot them, their breath caught. Father didn't abandon them. He loved them. He kept them close, even after they disappeared. He never let them go. A journal no one was meant to read. Down the center table lay a leather notebook, cracked with age. The brothers opened it carefully. Inside were their father's handwritten entries, dates, times, drawings, and then full pages written in rushed, panicked strokes. The first line hit like a punch. They found me again. The brothers exchanged a terrified look. Another entry. If anything happens, the boys must stay hidden. They are the only ones who can finish what I started. Then, the project is bigger than me now. Too big, too dangerous. The younger brother's hands trembled. What project? What was he building? They flipped the page. The next line was even worse. Power, technology, control, the kind that can change entire nations. The older brother whispered, Dad wasn't just an inventor. He was working on something powerful enough to threaten the wrong people. And those wrong people found him. The sound that didn't belong suddenly, a noise echoed in the hallway. Footsteps, slow, measured, intentional. The brothers froze. No one knew they were here. No one except... They pressed their backs against the wall, holding their breath. A shadow passed the small window in the door, then a voice, cold, calm, familiar. Had a feeling you too would come here. The brothers' eyes widened. They recognized that voice. The CEO, the man who praised their work, guided them, found them. What was he doing here? He pushed the door open casually, studying the room. Well, looks like you found your father's sanctuary. His tone wasn't warm anymore. Not impressed. Not supportive, calculating. Too calm for someone who accidentally discovered the place. The older brother stepped forward carefully. How do you know about this? The CEO smirked slightly. Because I was the last person your father trusted. A pause. And the last person he shouldn't have. The younger brother felt his chest tighten. What do you mean? The CEO walked slowly around the storage room, touching the inventions like trophies. Your father was brilliant. Too brilliant. And brilliance attracts power. He paused. And power attracts greed. His fingers traced the journal cover. He tried to pull away. He tried to hide from us. But he should have known you can't run from people who own the future. The older brother's voice cracked. Us. Who is us? The CEO finally looked directly at them. With your father gone, you two are the only loose ends left. A chill spread through the room, because in that moment, they understood this man didn't come to help them. He came to finish what started decades ago. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. Because the brothers weren't to scared children anymore. They were their fathers. Sons, smart, resilient, hungry for truth, and more dangerous than he realized. The younger brother met the CEO's cold stare and whispered, You made one mistake. The CEO raised an eyebrow. What's that? The brothers stepped closer, unified, steady, fearless. You taught us how powerful we are. Asterisk, the brothers stood their ground. The CEO's smile never faltered. But there was a tension in the air, like a storm held in a bottle, ready to burst. You think you understand what your father left you, he said. Do you? The older brother stepped closer. We understand enough. Enough to know that everything you just said, we don't fear it. The CEO's eyes narrowed. Bold words for children who barely know the world they stepped into. The younger brother clenched his fists. Children. We are not children. We are his sons. And you're about to see why you shouldn't have underestimated us. For the first time, the CEO paused. He realized something. These weren't the scared boys he expected to find. These were grown men forged in fire, pain, and loss. Their mother's strength, their father's intellect, their own relentless will, the inheritance of genius. The brothers looked around the storage room. Every blueprint, every invention, every journal, Their father's mind was here, alive in metal and paper. And suddenly they understood. They weren't just inheriting money. They were inheriting knowledge, power, a legacy that could shape the world. The CEO smirked. "Do you know what this means? You don't have a clue how dangerous this is." The older brother picked up one of the half-built machines, a prototype that looked like nothing the world had seen before. "We know enough," he said. "Enough to protect it, enough to finish it, enough to keep it out of the wrong hands." The CEO's smirk faltered. He realized that the boys training their mother's guidance, their father's genius, had made them more prepared than he had anticipated. The unexpected alliance, suddenly, a noise from outside the warehouse made them freeze. Not footsteps, not a vehicle, a hum, the kind of hum that vibrates through the floor and into your bones. The CEO's eyes widened. He turned slowly. The storage doors shuddered, and a convoy of black SUVs rolled up, engines low and powerful. "They're here," the CEO whispered, "and they're not coming for a friendly chat." The younger brother glanced at his older sibling. "This is bigger than we thought." The CEO nodded reluctantly. "You're right, but I can help you, if you're willing to trust me." The brothers looked at each other. They knew what he was offering: temporary alliance, temporary safety, but no loyalty. The older brother's voice was steady. "Maybe, but we make the rules now." The younger brother nodded in agreement. "We finish what our father started, on our terms." The first step toward the truth. They opened the father's journal again. Inside were coordinates, names, and locations of hidden facilities, patents, and accounts. The father's life had been a map, and now it was their map. The CEO leaned close, his voice low. "Do you realize what this will cost you? If you go down this path, there's no turning back. You may never see the world you knew again." The older brother closed the journal. His eyes burned with determination. "We don't need the world we knew. We need the one he built. And we need the truth." The younger brother added, "And we're taking it. Every secret, every penny, every lesson he left us." The CEO stared at them. Finally, he smiled. "Then let's begin." The storm on the horizon outside, the city lights flickered. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. But the air felt electric, charged with the promise of revelation. The brothers knew, tomorrow, everything changes. Their mother's sacrifices, their father's legacy, their own courage, all of it would collide with a world that had been waiting decades for them to rise. And the first step of that journey would decide whether they were heirs or just another forgotten story. The hum of the engines, the weight of the father's journals, and the pulse of the unknown all merged into one truth. The $500 million fortune, the hidden empire, the missing father, was theirs to reclaim. And no one was going to stop them.